Today you get a 2-for-1. You get a Roman rant and actual information you can use. I'm not sure that you even deserve it, but here it comes. Roman rant first. Yesterday, so on the weekend, I usually try to catch up with all my girlfriends. When you work in TV news, all news people, we work on 2-year contracts, so your friends move all over the country and you see them once in a blue moon. So she, a lovely human being, she moved from the South to New York City. Big deal. Big deal. But now she has this adorable little ankle biter who talks too much. Sweet kid, talks way too much. And she is now at the stage in his life where she has to think about where he's going to go to kindergarten. And so she's telling me about the stress of how to choose and what's going on in the public school system in New York City. And I'm thinking, how hard can it be? You just drop the little bastard off at the front door. That's what my parents did. And look how I turned out. And then she kind of reveals why. And it's because in a place like New York City, and with this generation of millennial parents, millennials who ruin everything, and where everyone is trying to be more progressive than the person next to them. It's who can be the most woke? And the answer is you just end up being obnoxious. So there's this trend in the public school system causing her angst, where parents are renaming their child a gender-neutral name and eliminating the she and the he part of the equation. The little tiny being that came out of her body, that at its moment of birth when you could not love it anymore, the name that they gave that child at that point in time, just throw that in the garbage, and Annabelle is now Bob. Something like that. I'm sorry, it has to be gender neutral. So it's Bobby with an I or Charlie or something like that. And she's just kind of not sure what to do about all that because it doesn't really jive with her beliefs, which is fine. That is not what the rant is about. I think that is insane. And again, millennials ruin everything. It has nothing to do with the kid. The kid still pees the bed. It's a pre-kindergarten. Do we need to sexualize something that still wets the bed? No, we don't. It doesn't matter. Anyway, that's not what the rant is about. What the conversation that I had with her reminded me about an even more obnoxious experience and it was recent. I was in Costco or Sam's Club, one of those places where I have to pay for the luxury of buying their stuff. And these 2 millennial moms are doing the thing that pisses me off the most in that store, which is they get their carts in bird formation in the aisle and then talk over here. So it's like the barricade in Les Miserables. So nobody can get through, and they stand there for 30 minutes and catch up in leggings. So I have to get something on the aisle near them, so I'm 1, blocked from progressing further, and 2, trying to find what I needed. And I'm listening to them, these 2 highly evolved beings, talk, with handbags in the front that cost more than most people's rent, with their little children running around them. And the conversation that they're having is that they do not allow their daughters to watch Disney movies because they perpetuate the false narrative that women are victims of their femininity and need to be rescued by a man. And so they don't allow their daughters to watch these movies. Now, I have never gotten violent with 10 gallons of ketchup, which is what I was buying, because it is a food group. But that day came pretty close to just smacking her right upside the head with that ketchup. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? Stop. Just stop. You, millennial mom, you grew up you got to be a Disney princess. Don't rob her of that because you need to sound more progressive than your neighbor. Are you kidding me? That was one of the best things about being a little girl, is you got to be a Disney princess. I know very few females of my age category who did not use the back of their couch to act as Ariel's rock when you had the CD, because we had CDs, hell yeah, and you knew all the songs, and you're singing that song, and like dressing up as a Disney princess for Halloween. My bathtub, was my Ariel performance arena. I mean, all of it was fun. I remember when new Disney movies came out, and it was like exciting. It was great. I could still sing most of the songs. Now, over time, because of these idiots, the storylines have gotten, like, I don't know, kind of ridiculous. Like, Frozen is trying to be, you know, more diverse now, so they have characters that don't really make sense in Norway or Sweden or wherever it's based. And, you know, when Frozen came out, and you better believe my ass was right up in the front seat with all the 10-year-olds. I love Disney movies. Frozen came out, and I'm watching that movie, and I'm like, okay, this is great. You know, Elsa, terribly relatable. You've got all the responsibility. You're in charge. You're running the show. These people are being assholes. So you're just going to leave. You're going to go build your own castle in the woods. Don't call me. Don't bother me. Great. I love that storyline. Hell yeah. But of course, now everyone's trying to make Elsa gay because she doesn't have a prince rescuing her. And I'm like, really? Really? Can she just, like, not want to be around you people? I just, that whole conversation just, was baffling to me. Baffling. Plus, that's not what those stories are about. Disney movies are not about some female being rescued by a man. They're about real estate investing. Watch the storyline and name me the princess besides Jasmine, because she already had her own money, so she didn't count. Most of the princesses bat their eyelashes and then get a mortgage-free castle. In some cases, waterfront. That's real estate investing. Can you imagine if I had a daughter, we're watching Disney movies, and I'm like, okay, sweetheart, watch what she does here. So she's going to take the bowl with both hands because the beast doesn't have opposable thumbs to hold a spoon. Are you watching? And she's gonna eat from the bowl like him. See that? And by the time the beast puts the bowl down, she will have her name on the deed. Do you see what she did there? Are you taking notes? Come on. Lighten the fuck up. Your daughter has to grow up with you for a mother. Let her have Pocahontas. Alright, I'm done with that. When I got the RV, the War Wagon, the fifth wheel, if this is your first video on this channel you're watching, I'm sure you're confused. I don't care. Just buckle up. I joined, like, all these RV Facebook groups because I had no idea how to work this thing. There's so many buttons. So, is this thing on? I noticed a trend on the questions in all these groups. There is an ungodly amount of full-time RV, full-time van, full-time travel lusting. A lot. Now, I don't mean this conversation to sound hypocritical because some smug idiot in the comment section will go, well, that's what you did. My entry into full-time van, RV, travel, whatever, was very different than most people. I was losing a career, it was not a decision that I wanted to make. Okay? My time in news ended for lots of reasons and none of them were happy. I didn't, like, wistfully sail off into the sunset of that job. I had no intention of ever leaving that job. The sale of my house was not a joyful thing. I had just finished renovating it. The Babe Cave was absolutely beautiful. It was one of the prettiest houses I'd ever been in. But I could not financially bear the mortgage and everything involved with a 110-year-old home without income. So the sale of the house was a function of losing the job. Selling all my stuff. You know, you hear this, like, sexy story about, and we just sold everything. Yeah, I had to do that too, but it wasn't because, you know, I was sailing off into the sunset of some other dream. It was a necessity. But when I read a lot of these comments or questions from people, it is, things are good. Things are good, and they're going to sell the house and sell all their things and get rid of everything and buy an RV and every day is going to be great. And I'm like, okay. Now, a lot of times from actual full-timers, they will get some good information that they tend to just skip over because YouTube media, I'm going to show you an article that came out recently about living in a van that I was like ready to again hit somebody with 10 gallons worth of ketchup. But I just want to bring some perspective to that listing because you're probably not going to get it anywhere else. So if you're hoping for me to rubber stamp your dream, I would go watch somewhere else. And it doesn't matter if you go watch somewhere else because I'm not getting paid for these anymore. Let's talk about selling the house. This is a big one. This is where all the sexy lusting starts, is we're just going to sell the house. Know this. At this point in the U.S. economy, barring any kind of financial meltdown that nobody saw coming, like another 2008, if you choose to sell your home and liquidate the equity in that property and then go spend it on an RV, campsites, travel, all sorts of depreciating assets, they're not really assets, but all these depreciating goods that can't be resold, that you can't get your money back on, when you return to living in a house, whatever, and now nobody shares their stories about giving up the RV and moving back in the house again, but everybody comes around at some point. They do. Unless their whole business is living in an RV, in which case they can't. So there's that. But if you take all that money and liquidate it and go spend it, when you return to the housing market, again, barring a meltdown, you will not be able to buy back what you had at that same value. I sold the Babe Cave in 2018, not that long ago. I don't think they've done anything to the house to improve it or change it. You couldn't improve it. It was perfect when I left it. Perfect. I could not go and buy back my old house at the same price that I sold it for in that amount of time. Smidge. Okay? This really disturbs me when I see people who are at the end of their working years doing this. Because I have plenty of more time, more working years to earn more income, establish credit, et cetera, where to qualify for mortgages and all that other jazz. But if you've lived in a home and you have built up all this equity in that property, and then you liquidate it, you go for a year, 2 years, 6 months, whatever it is, when you turn around, that house that you've invested in, you've upgraded things in, you've made improvements on, you bought years ago when it was dirt cheap, you sold it for all this money, but then you spent all that money on a Class A or a fifth wheel or whatever, and it's gone. When you return, you are not going to be able to get that same house that was as nice as you used to live in. Everything will be more expensive. Furthermore, and this is the issue that I'm facing right now because I'm trying to buy land, 1, to put me, my rig, and 2, to put all my cows that I must have. When you step away from a formal address, and I'll get into establishing residency and all that, but when, the mortgage company is like, okay, what is your permanent address for the past year? And I'm like, the United States of America. Doesn't go over well, okay? Once you step off that ledge, it's really hard to come back. And I can say that with full certainty because it's what I'm dealing with right now. So a lot of times you'll see people say, rent the house, rent the house, rent the house. I think that is a phenomenal idea. You have no idea how you're going to like full-time travel. You may not like it at all. You only hear stories about people who have been gone and doing it for years and years and years, but the strict majority of people go out, do it for a period of time, and then come back. I did it for 6 months, and then I came back, and right now I'm working my ass off so that I can keep traveling and doing other things, but I never set out to live on the road for 10 years or 5 years. It wasn't a goal. I was there for the experience, and I got it. And now I'm doing all kinds of different things, which I never would have been able to do had I not done that. But you have no idea how this is going to go for you. Furthermore, in most cases, there are two people involved. You have no idea how your spouse is going to handle full-time travel. You may be in it to win it, but your spouse may not. If you're the man side of that equation and your wife says that she's not in it to win it, guess where your ass is going? Home. Okay? So if you get rid of the property, you have nothing to come back to. Nothing. And you can't buy back what you had. If you are able to rent that house, now you have turned... I don't consider homes assets, by the way. Home is only an asset when you sell it and make money, and you don't always make money. But if you're generating rental income, now it's an asset. You have something to put in your pocket while you're on the road, so a little bit of income. And then if you want to return home, you can, once that lease expires, you have your home back. Why didn't I do that with the Babe Cave? I didn't do that with the Babe Cave because the Babe Cave was a lot of maintenance. She's 110 years old. So I knew where every single nail in that house was. I knew where all the pipes were. I knew how all the systems worked because I installed them. So anytime something was wonky on the house, I knew immediately. I could just tell. Like that soul's spirit and mine were joined. That house's. All right, so I always knew when something needed to be maintained. And I also knew that if I was away on the road in Texas or whatever, that I wouldn't be able to do that kind of maintenance, and I didn't trust a renter to be on top of it. Old houses, you do not own an old house. The old house owns you. It was like living in Downton Abbey, but without the cool outfits, okay? So I didn't want to entrust this beautiful renovation that I did to a complete stranger to take care of. Renters notoriously are not great on maintenance, and I didn't want to come back to my beautiful Victorian home and find 3 litter boxes in the back and their deadbeat baby daddy or baby mama or girlfriend or mom or whatever the scenario is also living in the home. So for me, because my house was extremely old, I didn't think that that was a good idea. That's why I made that choice. But if you can do it, I would highly recommend just rent the house. That way, if you don't like full-time travel, you have something to come back to, and you have not liquidated something with a whole lot of equity that you can't buy back at the same price. Another thing to consider is that life happens. Now, I don't have one of those things called a family, like mine is not really functional or around. So I don't get phone calls about what's going on in the family. I don't ever have to rush out to the family. I don't go to a family for holidays. None of that is a part of my life. But for most people it is. If you have children, if you have grandchildren, if you are close with your family at all, anything like that, life happens. People get sick, people get into accidents. If you want your children to visit you during the holidays, if you want to visit your children, maybe your rig is too big, maybe they live in an apartment and there's nowhere to put it, you are going to lose some of that structure, not only just for visitation, but also if something happens where there is a sudden illness or there is some kind of event within your family and you need to be there, you are not home anymore. There is nowhere for your kids to visit on Christmas, and honestly, if something catastrophic happens, you are probably going to have to return to some sort of normalcy anyway, and now you're in an RV. So I know I'm painting like a worst case scenario here, but this is the stuff that nobody tells you about. I give you that example because my neighbors at the Babe Cave, who I absolutely love, they worked their entire lives as hard as they could to retire, and they bought this like totally tricked out Sprinter van, and the thing is so cool, and it usually is in the driveway because her husband got health issues, they can't travel like they wanted to, and their kids constantly need them. So they only have a little van to deal with, but they still kept their house. If you get rid of everything and you live in a van, how are you going to deal with those issues? Just stuff to think about, okay? The next question that I see an awful lot on these is, What is the cheapest insurance for either full-timing or RVs in general? This one makes my blood boil because it tells me that people do not understand how insurance works. The person who did the best video on this, and I'm not even going to try to come close to explaining it like she did because she did such a phenomenal job. She's also a new member of the Grand Design Fifth Wheel family. High five. Robin at Creative RV did a video about how insurance works, how it's structured, and it is so spot on and so well explained that I'm just going to link to her video so you can watch it. But there's one part of what she addressed that nobody gets, and that it's all I can do to get into these comments when I see people ask for the cheapest insurance. But she nailed it, and that is you get the insurance that protects your assets. So if you just go and ask, if you call up any insurance company and just ask for the best, the lowest, the cheapest rate, they'll give you the best, the cheapest, and the lowest rate. But when those numbers, there's always a slash between them, 100,000, 300,000, collision, bodily injury, property. Those are all the insurance company's way of saying what they're going to cover up to. And what most people do is when they look at an insurance plan and they just look at, well, what is it going to take to fix my car, fix my rig, replace my car? But that is not the catastrophic side of an accident. When you are driving a consumer vehicle, those accidents people die in those accidents. When you are pulling 10,000 pounds behind you, you are in a whole new class on the highway. If you get into an accident in an RV, even in a cargo van, and you hit a standard consumer car, they are not going to win that accident. Chances are, not only will their vehicle be totaled, yours will probably be flipped upside down and mangled, and there will probably be extensive injury, if not loss of life, because this is a massive thing. Even a cargo van is a huge, heavy vehicle. So just looking at what is it going to take to fix your rig is like this big of the equation. What you see on the news about a bad accident is this much. You don't see everything that happens after an accident, which is when people start suing each other. And that's what happens in real life. Because if you're the cause of an accident, and so you're the negligent party, chances are the other person is going to sue you. And can you blame them? You caused the accident. They were out of work, they were injured, they lost their car, maybe someone in the car lost their life. They're going to sue you. And they will come after you, because this is what lawyers do, for everything they can possibly get. So when you're looking at an insurance plan, the lowest rate helps you none at all. The best insurance you can possibly get is the insurance plan that protects all of your assets. When I call to get a quote on insurance, I have already gone through and looked at the total value of all my assets, my money in the bank, money in 401k, any savings, any investments, anything like that. And I say, this is the value of my assets. I need the best rate on the plan that covers all of that. And that's what I'm willing to pay. And here's the irony, is if you look at the incremental steps of how much more you pay, it's like nothing. You can get $200,000 more coverage in insurance for like $60 a year. $60 a year to cover $200,000 of everything that you worked your entire life to have. Really? So this question is asked all the time, and people compete. They're like, well, we only pay $280 a year. Well, we only pay this year. And I'm like, I am happy. I pay a lot. I think for both the truck and the fifth wheel, I think I'm paying close to $2,000. And I don't flinch about that, because if anything was to happen, I will pay that money the year to protect everything that I have busted my ass to make. No problem. What happens when you see people get their thong in a knot over insurance claims is they usually don't understand their plan. Any situation involving vehicles that are this expensive or the potential loss of life, to boil it down to what you got the cheapest rate on is stupid. Robin elaborates on this way more than I do, and she goes through line by line on how to understand insurance. She did a phenomenal job. She is highly intelligent in this regard. It is worth the watch. I'll put a link below. Okay, regarding the house and what you're going to come back to and buying back and all that, the other issue that people ask and get shitty information about is establishing a domicile. If you sold your house and you don't have a permanent address, if you got rid of everything, if you're a free bird, you have a problem because a bank demands a permanent address. To register to vote, you have to have a permanent address. And for a driver's license, you have to have a real permanent address. So this is a huge problem for all of us who are full-time. One that I'm trying very hard to fix right now and can't because mortgage companies are mortgage companies. Anyway, so the thing that I see people suggest is they'll say, we'll get a UPS box which looks like a normal address. So I went out and got one, and I immediately realized why that's not a smart piece of advice. First of all, it flat out says PMB number, personal mailbox number. So it's a dead giveaway that that's not a house. And anyone with a clue in the financial sector is going to know that. So I know that some people do it and some people get away with it. But if you look enough, you will see stories that people have shared where their bank figured out that they were not at a fixed address, or didn't have their name on a lease somewhere, or something to that extent, and froze their money. Yay! So I would not go down the route of just assuming that a P.O. box or a personal mailbox is going to solve all your problems. You also cannot put that on a driver's license or register to vote. So the way to get around that is that there are some states like South Dakota, I think South Dakota, Florida, and Texas. You can establish your domicile there for not that much work, and you just call that home. The thing about that I find so baffling, and this is maybe a little bit more philosophical than, tangible, is how quick people in America are willing to give up their right to vote in their community or state just to make this aspect of life a little easier. I deeply, deeply care about where my community in North Carolina is headed in the future. So I want to retain the right to have a say about who runs it, and the bonds we have, and the school decisions that we have, and roads and projects and all kinds of stuff. I don't want to lose my say in my community, ever. I also don't want to lose my vote and say in where North Carolina is heading. I'm originally from New Jersey, but I've lived here for quite a while, and I'm not going to give that up so freely. I don't want to. Plus, I'm pretty sure South Dakota doesn't want all your opinions in their state. I'm almost positive. So I know people do it, but you are forfeiting your right to have a vote in your community or state. And hey, it's not like we haven't been fighting for eons of time for the right to vote, to have fair vote. Just who cares, right? Another common question is, how do I make money on the road? So these people want to quit their job, sell everything, and then they're going to hit the road, but they need to finance that lifestyle. I used YouTube and Patreon as my primary for the first couple months on the road, and it worked out. And now, if you've been following the recent videos, you'll see why it's not worked out at all, because that money is being held hostage. I can't get to it. Super risky. Super risky. Plus, I had been editing video for years beforehand, so I already had those skills in-house. The truth is, most people who start some kind of YouTube channel, it's not going to go anywhere because there's so much competition for eyeballs. It's so hard to get monetized. So it was a big risk. It worked out, but I would say in most cases, the channel, it's very hard to grow. So most of them stay small. Plus, people think that you make a lot of money on YouTube, and that is a huge myth. Huge myth. So let's just go over some of the costs that most people are going to face, and then the reality of some of the suggestions that you've probably read online or that people on YouTube say or that you'll get on social media. I'm going to assume, let's just say your health insurance is $500. Now, if you're an anomaly, if you have like free insurance from this, that, or the other thing, just shut up. You're not like most people. Just zip it, okay? So let's just say $500. And a lot of people on the road full time still retain a storage unit because they say they're going to sell everything and then they don't. So let's say that's another 100. Okay, now you need insurance to cover your rig, and if that could be a truck and a trailer or just the trailer. Let's say $120 a month. Your phone bill, one people, two people, I'm not sure, but let's say $100. Food, I'll round down and say $400. Gas, I'll round down again and say $200. I'm going to assume you're filling up, I don't know, once a week. It's going to differ for everybody. And then the rig itself, since most people finance their rigs, I'll say your payment on the rig is $400. Okay? That puts us at $1,820. So if you're going to quit your job, if you're going to go out on the road, if you're going to like make a go of it, your base income that you have to earn is $1,820. And this is all a guess. This is also, I'm not assuming that there are any children in the equation. If there are, I would triple these numbers. I'm assuming you have no pets, and I'm assuming you have no debt. So you have no consumer debt, you have no student loans, you owe nothing. So you've got to come up with $1,820. Now, when I have, and I'm also not assuming there are any camping fees. In Wilmington, North Carolina, if you want to rent a spot for a month, it is $750 at the park, $750 plus electricity. $750 plus electricity is getting close to the cost of an apartment. So when people think that this is a way to save money, no, it's not. Because then at $750, now I'm over $2,000 in fixed costs that I have to come up with income every single month to pay for just the basics. This doesn't cover any amusement, attractions, no museum, all the things that are great about travel. This doesn't include eating out at any cool restaurants. This is just basic to keep you going on the road. And that is a pretty substantial chunk of change. Where people do the math wrong is that I'll see them, and I've had actual conversations with people about this. I've also watched it play out on here, is they'll add up their fixed monthly costs, and they look at that number, and they'll say, well, you know, at my current job, I usually bring home, whatever it is, let's say $3,000 a month, so that should be good. And I'm like, whoa. That's $3,000 post-tax, cupcake. When you are an employee and you work for an employer, you two split your taxes. You pay half the tax, which is mostly Social Security tax that you're not even going to get to enjoy. Ha ha ha. And then Medicaid. So you've been only paying half of the tax bill, and then most of you give the government a free loan and then get part of it back at the end of the year. I don't know why people do that. If you would like to give out other free loans, I am happy to accept those funds. I'll give you back some of it at the end of the year as well, just some of it, and not tell you how I spent the rest of it. They're so smart, the U.S. government. So you're looking at a figure where all of your deductions have already been made, and that was your take-home pay. Well, welcome to the world of self-employment. When you quit that job, when you jump off that ledge, when you get in your RV and like go do your thing, you are now taxed at the self-employment tax rate, which is 15%. So 15% of everything you make, it now has to go back. So take that fixed monthly cost and now add an additional 15%, or, take whatever you think you can make and take out 15% and see if you can still even pull that number off. You still have to earn a pretty decent income to afford this. And these are just basic costs. So why is that now? And people are, oh, that's so unfair. The government is going to incentivize people doing the things that it wants them to do, which is create jobs, provide housing, and grow food. And if you're not doing one of those things, you pay all the tax. Businesses get tax incentives because they are doing the thing the government wants them to do. So, if you are going to quit the job, if you are going to go make your own thing, I hope that you will, at the very least, if you're going to start a little business to do out of your RV, establish an LLC for yourself. I don't want to pay the cost of an LLC. Well, for $250 filing fee, or whatever it is in your state, once a year will probably save you a ton of money, thousands on taxes, because an LLC is a pass-through entity, meaning you are not going to get taxed twice, okay? Totally worth it. Of course, you have to actually have a business in order to do that. So, and then I'll hear from some people like, well, I'm just gonna do cash-only jobs when I'm on the road. And I'm like, oh, you're so smart. And just wait for a couple years when that screws you, because when you circle back and you decide that you want to get an auto loan or a home loan, or you need a loan to grow an actual business, anything like that, and they go, okay, well, we need profit and loss statements, and we need your income statement and your tax form and all that for the past 3 years, which is what you have to go through when you're getting pre-qualified on a loan, and you have nothing, absolutely nothing from the past couple years because you were so witty doing cash only. If you have no record of your finances, you are not going to get any kind of loan anywhere. So it sounds witty, but in the long term, you'll probably screw yourself that way. Okay? I'm also not adding in the money that you'll need to save for emergencies, save for retirement. If you're already retired, congratulations. A lot of this isn't going to apply to you except for the selling your house bit. And then maintenance on your rig, etc., etc. My point is that you do have to come up with a healthy chunk of change every single month to make this happen. I did the YouTube thing and the Patreon thing for a couple months, and now I have clients who I produced some pretty elaborate videos for. So it's been a transition for me, but I damn well knew after a couple months of YouTube that was not sustainable because I was losing money every month. So, you can go through periods where you're not necessarily raking in the cash, but you have to have a plan that is sustainable if you want to be full-time, and quite literally full-time, for an ongoing lifestyle, okay? So then let's talk about some of the really awful tips that people give about how to make money on the road. I Googled, let me see if I can do this. I was just laughing my ass off this morning. Hold on. Let's just go through the exercise. Ways to make money on the road. Here we go. Look, poor traveler with a $300 backpack. All right, so it's things like this where I'm like, this is not great advice. The first one is become a travel writer. Are you kidding me? Do you know how saturated that market is? If you can even get someone to accept your writing, you probably spent several hours writing it, and they might give you $20, maybe. Now subtract 15% from taxes, you made no money. You're not paying for a damn thing this week. Get involved in video journalism. Again, I have great travel stories on the internet. I can sell them to absolutely no one, because so many people are producing them. And so many people are producing them for way cheaper than I'm willing to, because they bought a Canon Rebel as a kit from Sam's Club as a Black Friday sale, and now they're a video journalist. It's saturated. I don't even recommend this for me. Okay? Play online poker. That's right. If you need to make money on the road, get yourself a gambling addiction. Who writes this? Learn how to massage. That sounds like a way to get kidnapped or get your ass pinched while being on the road. No, let's not do that. Do farm work. This one gets suggested a lot. There's some like event, it's like pull a rutabaga or some like beet harvest, some root vegetable that nobody eats, and they will accept RVers and van people and they'll work you to death on like a 16-hour day. They don't actually tell you the exact hours. They only tell you that you get like $3,000 at the end of the harvest. And people are like, oh, $3,000, like that's a big chunk of change. If you investigate that a little bit further, for the amount of hours you will work doing manual labor, when you divide that by the 3,000, it's about minimum wage. So you traded your time to see America, to be on the road, to work minimum wage pulling rutabagas. I don't think that's great advice. I would not do that unless your heart is calling out to root vegetables. For anyone else, no. No. Amazon has a similar one. It's like you can, I forget, it's in the middle of the country. You can go and park there and work like during the busy season packaging. And again, the hours are insane and divided by the pay is like pretty much nothing. What else? Let's see. Do construction work. This one I actually like because the people who are on the road who you don't see on YouTube, who are just people you're going to meet, the ones who sustain it the longest are people who have a trade. Remember what trades are? Trades were the things that several generations ago people got and did quite well for themselves until the current generation where being an Instagram influencer became the new way to not actually make any money. Plumbers, electricians, carpenters, roofers. If you have an actual trade, or if you can get one, if you can go, I know at our community college we do these like 2-week boot camps where you can learn like plumbing basics, carpentry basics. I took the carpentry basics, and at about a week and a half I was just telling everyone else what to do. It didn't work for me. I wasn't big enough to hold like the humongous nail gun, so I just was ordering everyone else around to do my biddings for me. It's my greatest skill, is bossing other people around. I can't help it. But people who have legitimate trades, you will probably be able to find work the easiest and actually make the income that supports this. When I stayed in Texas, the nicest RV parks I stayed in with the nicest rigs and the people who were actually making legit money were guys who lived in their RVs and they traveled from oil rig to oil rig, from refinery to refinery. They worked on contract. They worked for a while, and then they went and had fun for a while, and then they went to another site and worked for a while, and then they came back. And they were making killer money. They were on their own clock, and I thought it was such a cool way to live. I can also say that as the only female at that park, I was extremely popular. I was their queen. A lot of these are absolutely terrible. I've heard some people want to make like trinkets or essential oils or whatever kind of gypsy wares and like go to events and sell them. You might be able to do that. Anyway, the point is that in reality, you have to be able to generate a significant income that is stable to cover fixed costs every single month. Being a camp host does not put money in your pocket. It just saves you. It saves you money, but it's not generating income, so it's not going to pay for all these other things. All I'm saying is you have to actually sit down if you want to do this over a long period of time and write out your numbers and really give some thought into what will cover those costs and then adjust for self-employment tax and emergencies. And I would say 99% of the bullshit that I hear people suggest on how to make money on the road is strictly clickbait, because these are all easy sells. Oh, I'll just write travel logs, or I'll just I'll just resell things. I'll work at a festival. Yeah, but it's still not going to cover this. It's just not. Sorry. Now for my favorite part. Traditional mainstream media has like gotten wind of the van life thing, and so I get a kick out of, I'm still learning my screens, hold on. When articles like this, the guide to living in a van, and I'm salivating at this point because I know that it's gonna all be bullshit, and I love reading these. Okay, let's learn something. U.S. News, Guide to Living in a Van. So right at the beginning, we have our obligatory picture of a millennial hippie. Usually they're reading a book, which kills me because, so you got rid of everything to go see the world, and now you're sitting inside a van reading a book. Why? I don't think I ever read in the van leisurely because there was so much better stuff outside. Anyway, so she's staring at her cell phone and she's in the van, and these pictures, anyone who's lived in a van or RV for any length of time knows that these very famous photos where all the windows and doors are open, that's like never, because when I see this, the only thing I'm thinking is, girlfriend, you're going to be sleeping with a lot of mosquitoes tonight. You don't ever do that. Ever. Like those pretty pictures where there's like the stars and all of the doors are open and they're like sitting out the back. I think even I took one. It's the same thing. Your van will be full of mosquitoes in an instant, but you got that cool photo. Okay, so I don't know why people wait to text message me until I start a video. How much does a van cost? Okay, let's see how much lying goes on in this part of the article. So what they did here is they feature a couple, because it's, hold on. Okay, I don't even know who that is, but I'm already pissed off at them. Why do people have to send 8 text messages in a row when you can just write it all into one? Rude. How much does a van cost? So this is the typical news article about van life where they feature an adorable couple. And here, I actually looked these people up. Lovely long-haired couple, both of them. No man bun, but long hair. And the story here is that they bought a 1999 Ford, a 20-year-old van. 20 years old, for just $3,000. And here's the violin music. Here's, because this is where the story happens. Because they're not going to tell you the full reality of this, because then you won't keep reading. Because if you hear that, because I saw how beat up old vans were, bought a new one for over $30,000, well, nobody's going to buy into that because that's a lot of money. So they can't tell you that part. So $3,000, what a deal. It's 20 years old. And then for just $700, less than $1,000, according to the article, they insulated it, framed it, ventilated it, electricity and plumbing for $700. Holy shit. Bullshit. Fake, false. No, you didn't. I don't know who's lying, if it's our adorable long-haired couple or this reporter who doesn't know how to do math, but that's impossible. The insulation alone on mine was like $250. The wood was another couple hundred. To ventilate means that you had to cut through the roof or the sides, so then you needed windows. A max air fan alone is $200. You need a special blade to cut through the metal. That wasn't cheap. Electricity, if you ran any amount of copper wire, that cost a significant amount of money. And then plumbing, if you so much as have a water motor, the pump is motorized, that's like $65. There's no way that you did that for $700. But this is the life, this is what they're selling you. So for just $3,000 plus $700, under $4,000, you can have this amazing lifestyle. What a lie. What a stinking lie. These numbers aren't real. What are they not mentioning? Well, let's see. It's a 20-year-old cargo van. So what they're saying is there was no rust in it. It didn't need new brakes. The shocks were fine. Everything was working great. 20 years old, it was in mint condition. A cargo van meant for heavy duty work was just, they didn't have to fix a damn thing. It's a miracle. There's no mention of the insurance on that vehicle. No mention of the taxes, the title, the tags. Nope, for under $4,000, they got the hashtag van life lifestyle. Bullshit. Nope. They also go on to say that they put in an $800 fridge. Is any part of that story not consistent? So you budgeted so hard that you built an entire tiny house with electricity, plumbing, ventilation, framing, and insulation for under $700. But when it came to the fridge, you were like, fuck it, get the $800 fridge. Why? I think my truck fridge was like $450. What are you putting in there? Well, I mean, like, is it a household fridge? $800? I mean, even like the ones with all the bells and whistles are still like $650. Truck Fridge recently increased their prices, and they blamed that on the steel tariffs, which is not real, because there was a lot of volatility in the steel sector when we were going through the tariffs. It did not cause your product to increase in price by $150 indefinitely. Here's what happened, Truck Fridge. You saw that all these van lifers, all these people were buying Dometics and other brands, which have more bells and whistles than yours do, and so you just wanted to raise your prices, but blame it on someone else. That's what happened. That's what happened. I did actually look up this adorable couple, and currently they're renovating an RV with their dog. There's always a dog. But there are no pictures anywhere of the $3,700 van. It's just this story. My point is, there's so much bad information. So much bad information. So many stories about people doing the full-time travel, doing the van life, all that, where entire holes exist in what it actually took, because you're not going to read that story. You're not going to read about the part where they bought the 20-year-old van and then spent another $15,000 on the engine repairs, brake repairs, exhaust, everything else, because that sounds like work, and nobody wants to do work. So just be critical, ask lots of questions, take what I say for a grain of salt, take what everybody else says for a grain of salt, but just know that none of this is cheap. All of it requires hard work. There are no shortcuts. It's not easy. But, if you can do it, then you get to experience a pretty cool thing. And I think that's worth all the hard work and stress and everything else. Because now I have a sexy war wagon that I love. All right, if you have any questions, I think at this point in the video, I'm supposed to tell you to put it in the comment section, but I probably won't read it there because YouTube is holding my money hostage. Yeah, just being honest. All right, weirdos, I hope you learned something. Get a grip, keep it real, no more bullshit. Bye.